This video is looser than what I normally write, and I'm really sorry if you can hear like music in the background. They are doing the Cupid shuffle outside. This video is very specific to myself and my own relationship with K-pop recently. It does make a few generalizations here and there, and you will hear them in the video, but I promise these are not meant maliciously. They are just there to help illustrate my thoughts. There are thousands to millions of completely independent experiences in this fan base, and this is just me rambling a bit on my own time. A lot of my perspective comes from conversations I've had with you guys the past 2 years and the things that we've shared on this channel together. But please understand this video is not meant to trample or degrade anyone else's experience or put mine above theirs. I can only really speak about my own relationship with the fan base, so just keep that in mind if you decide to watch or to chat down below. I've always rather liked comeback quarters. A rush of new music and concepts and eras reminds me of what makes K-pop unique. I imagine it's kind of like being a sports fan with more glitter. And recently, while I've been chugging along, releasing a video every 6 years with my slow snail hands, I saw a shift in the K-pop fanbase. Whether it was here the whole time and I just didn't notice, or whether it's just been ramping up this whole time, I'm not sure. In the stretch from April to July, we saw a slew of new releases: BTS, Twice, EXO, the various NCTs, ITZY, Monsta X, Luna, 17, Everglow, TXT, and then later down the line we even had Red Velvet. But what surprised me was I was more overwhelmed by the broader tone of the fan base these past few months. Everywhere you turned, there was intense disappointment. Every comeback was weaker than last year's, every song was disappointing, no hook was surprising enough, or hard enough, or genuine enough. Sticking to a concept meant a group had finally gone stale, but finding a new one meant the group was losing their original sparkle. Continuing a new route meant that the origins were dead and spat on, but returning to the safe zone was too safe. And I can't pretend that I don't understand it. This isn't to say that criticism has become punching down. Nuanced K-pop criticism is worth encouraging, and it deserves the safety and sanity of other genres. Though with the internet being what that is, that can be a hard-fought battle. It's ridiculous to think that anyone should like everything, or that anything deserves inherent positive reception, but this past year felt different from the typical volley of up-down opinions. Where in the past, a disappointing comeback meant an annoying waiting period between now and the hopefully better next mini, 2021 saw a rising obsession with the last great era of a K-pop group. As soon as a comeback was released, there were walls of posts and comments and videos tracking the exact verse that proved the group was clearly deteriorating and would never regain the artist they used to be. This pertains to the perceived downward spiral of a group's music or artistic direction, the general feeling that a group's subsequent releases are becoming increasingly disappointing or directionless, and that the glory days are over. Mafia in the Morning is the death of ITZY's originality. Paint the Town is the death of Luna's unique sound style. Don't Fight the Feeling is EXO's last chance to escape being amontilladoed in SM's basement forevermore. Next Level means that we'll never have traditional song structures again. Butter shows that BTS have actually forgotten how to sing in Korean and are taking US citizenry tests as we speak. It seems that every 2021 comeback is not just the tip-down point in a group's career, it's the end times for K-pop as a whole. Is it some sort of new trend to say that 2021 K-pop just sucks ass? I'm not actually saying there's a video out there called 2021 K-pop sucks ass, but I don't even know if it would surprise me if there were. Usually we just call that a dead year, but there's almost a subculture in the fan base now revolving around whose music is about to take the tipsy tumble and what drastic effects that will have on the entire genre. And this is a sentiment that I myself have absolutely felt. For some reason, I hit these periods where nothing feels unpredictable or electrifying anymore. I can't really sit here and go, oh my god, why is everyone complaining so much except for me? Why can't we all just have a good time? When there's been a feeling of stagnation for a while. Also, I complain all the time, so I have no space to say that. While I am surprised that there are so many last great era feelings circulating, I can't really say I don't understand where they come from. Dust fills my bones, even as I say this, but I've actually been around for a while. This conversation is a staple that has been attached to BTS for 5 years now. Due to a general shortage of eras, Blackpink has had this conversation since debut, but it's become more vibrant after the Kill This Love comeback. Red Velvet's constant concept changes mean that people have always tried to guess which one is the real nail in the coffin. These theories and complaints were pretty easy to weather, as they usually stuck to older, more popular groups with strong fan bases, and so they weren't as damning in the grand scheme. I became a BTS fan when they released Dark and Wild, and I've seen every single album since be labeled the last great era of BTS. That my love for BTS and their music has not diminished at all in that time doesn't make me a better K-pop fan, it just means that it doesn't really faze me. But this is the first year I've seen it applied consistently to groups that are barely 3 years old or have yet to smash the domestic ceiling. So why does every comeback arrive with the tinge of doom? Where has the last great era come from, and why the hell should I care? K-pop isn't fringe anymore. While it may not be treated with as much respect as some of us would like, it's not the closed bedroom door hobby that it used to be. It is internationally recognized and praised and sought after. What could have been a 2018 fad riding BTS's global coattails has sunk its nails into the edge of the cliff. In North America, there are K-pop stores in low-scale malls selling the latest BTS mini. Momoland singles are playing in airports, and there are Red Velvet advertisements on billboards in major city intersections. My ex in London tells me that there are company-sponsored Blackpink posters out on the street. My sister and I had a moment of shock a few months ago when we heard ice cream and butter under American tech commercials in between our dad's baseball game. I think a lot of us were rightfully cautious about the sudden explosion. For about 3 years, it felt like that wave was going to snap around and spit out its token complaints of crazed fangirls and plastic artists just as soon as it was done being degenerized. And it did. And it still does. It's been a long, slow slog to get non-fans to see K-pop as anything legitimate. And sometimes something happens that puts us back in the Stone Ages for a few weeks. I think in the middle of 2019, there was a chance that K-pop was either going to settle into a casual global genre or recede back under the bed, and neither of these things happened. Allow me to make a quiet generalization. In the circles that I've run in the past year, it feels like all the fans I've talked to have largely avoided talk of coronavirus. Much of the fandom has followed a polite, unspoken rule to leave COVID-19 at the door when entering the K-pop space. Apart from heated arguments over idols not wearing masks or being seen in public spaces, the reality of COVID-19 among K-pop fans has been a bit of a don't ask, don't tell. Schools were closed, work was at home, the news every morning was a higher death toll of people gone literally overnight, and when you went to buy your groceries, you did so under the pretext of something so scary and so final that had oddly become normal. And for many of us, people we loved became sick or even died. I feel that K-pop was the medication of choice for many young adults and teenagers during the COVID-19 pandemic. People are tired of living through historical events every 2 weeks, and K-pop was this bright escape into the world of beautiful strangers who have perfect lives. K-pop is a very particular fandom. For many of us, it's purely online. For many of us, it advertises connection with beautiful strangers as much as it does with just music. And for many of us, it offers escapism. It's colorful and sugary and driven by very strong emotions of satisfaction. And so it went on for over a year. And I'm starting to wonder that if K-pop has been your escapism since even before the pandemic, that life rope has to be wearing thin. Many fans increased their consumption of K-pop during 2020 as a means of escaping or coping or relaxing, and with a lot of the people I've talked to, I've seen signs of overstimulation. For international fans, K-pop is almost purely an online experience. The entire experience is made up of internet conventions. Mental and emotional fatigue go hand in hand with the internet, and so mental and emotional fatigue have become rampant in K-pop spaces. Sometimes it feels like the amusement park has been open too long. The roller coaster is now causing nausea, and the bright lights are a headache. Now, deep into the 4th generation, everything is getting faster. The conveyor belt is getting faster. Companies are pouring new groups onto the market as fast as they can. Concepts seem to expire quicker and quicker, losing their sparkle and shine after just a few months, where it used to take years to tire us out of the same old, same old. Songs are getting faster. Verses last 20 seconds on a good day. The whirligig of fun is, in many ways, dizzying beyond control, and wouldn't it be nice to just slow down? Mass fandom exhaustion has begun to show, and I think that's where part of this last great era issue stems. Every new comeback is a hailing beacon that the group is on a downward spiral into bad music. Each new month is worse than the last one. It doesn't matter what the newest comeback was. Every song that isn't both completely fresh and a perfect callback to the group's origin is disappointing, is plastic, and is a sign that the group has lost their true musical identity. It seems like there's nothing anyone can release that won't be met with immediate disappointment. 2021 has offered another terrifying break in immersion: group disbandment. We've seen staple groups disappear, we've seen groups change their sound and imagery, we've seen members leave groups seemingly out of nowhere and sometimes even be replaced by new faces. Contracts are coming up this year. It feels like every other week a third-gen group splits apart. It's G-Friend gone without a goodbye announcement. It's IZ*ONE crying at their goodbye concert in what was basically an empty hall because, of course, no fans were allowed to attend. It was different and it was sad. For the small companies struggling for cash, some groups debuted and vanished without seeing a single fan. There's a real fear that a group you love may vanish without warning, or become so unrecognizable that they lose what made you love them. How many more things that we associate with fun and recreation are going to lose purchase or disappear or fall apart? And even so, the reality of the world hasn't gone away. Funny how, for the first time in recent memory, "it's not the end of the world" didn't apply. Oddly enough, the current K-pop fandom reminds me very heavily of the Steven Universe fanbase at its fever pitch in 2016. For the smart ones of you who weren't on Tumblr at the time, this cartoon was madly raved about, in part for tying fantasy escapism to identity representation. Long story short, a lot of people became very personally attached to the show's characters and ideologies, many of which took significant ups and downs throughout the course of the story. Around 2016, everyone in the fandom was so personally tied up in the show that it caused a massive crash. On top of general questionable writing choices, any direction the show took became a problem because it violated someone's personal stake in a character. No twist was groundbreaking or exciting enough, no plot development felt justified or interesting, and as the show tried to address darker and more complex discussions, the manner in which they were handled caused near constant fighting. People were bullied out of the fandom and even off the internet. The staff was under constant fire. Something that had been very heavily enjoyed by so many people could suddenly no longer provide that same consumption high, and it dissolved into infighting and fans scrambling to cling to their piece of the show. Once something has been so consumable and so exciting for so long, you hit your tolerance plateau. A lot of fandoms, especially online ones, dissolve under this kind of stress. Add one of the four horsemen to that, and you got a recipe for a civil collapse. The parallels between many once great Tumblr fandoms and contemporary K-pop gets stronger by the day. Fandom decay can occur in dozens of ways. It can happen slowly through the gradual loss of interest or slow petering out of content. It can happen all at once due to one-hit wonders or jumping the shark. But what I've seen most often in online forward fandoms is the fever pitch point, where the boil hits the highest it can possibly go before shattering. At the same time that the general public views us all as K-pop fans under the same umbrella, we don't necessarily see ourselves that way. We don't all like the same groups or have the same opinions. Hell, we don't even support our groups in the same way. The K-pop fandom is really a bucket term for 35 million individuals who've all been made to feel embarrassed in the same way, all while liking completely different groups. The fandom is so many things at once, and yet we're all mixed into this giant pot together. We all know the trends happening across groups. We all watch large shifts in music. We're all feeling the strain of the last 2 years. I'm not saying this to spark negativity in the fan base or say that K-pop fans have lost themselves in the genre. If anything, the fandom has become richer in discussion as well as action. Mental health and personal maintenance are a vital part of the ongoing community climate. Every day, fewer fans are made to feel embarrassed by what they love. I think we're going through a rough patch of fandom fatigue. In truth, there is no great mission statement to this piece, except perhaps be decent to one another. Be decent to yourself. Take a break. Fall behind and don't feel the need to catch up. Talk to someone. Don't talk to anyone. And for those of you who are still here after everything that's happened the last 2 years, know that I'm extremely proud of you. You've worked hard, even if no one can see it. Feel free to use the comment section below to spread some kindness to other strangers. We don't know each other face to face, but in this small way, we can be there for each other.